Hello, everybody. And
Hi,
on
Tim.
today's show,
Ah,
we've got the usual Christelle and April, and also Coach Deb, who
hello.
is our
Hello,
wonderful guest
Deb.
for
I'm
today.
so happy to have you here.
Thank
Just so
you.
you know.
And this should be the first show that we're live on YouTube with, as well as
Oh,
Facebook.
Oh, it's
So,
on YouTube? Oh,
we're
and
just
wow.
our
streaming.
great
I
channel
love
with one subscriber, which is me. But
it.
we need to start.
I better go and
start on the-
subscribe now.
I think that's a hit for all of us. Just saying. I didn't know it was up. Thanks for doing that.
Anyway, today's guest is Deb Cole, who is known as Coach Deb, who has been big in social media and the internet and all sorts of stuff, and TV and presenting. It's been around for quite a while in this space. I mean, it's fair to say that you were the first person to create a book on Twitter, in my understanding. Is that true, Deb?
That is absolutely correct. First published book, it was called Twitter Revolution, and it was in my former name. So yes, yep. But I'm like I say, I'm around since the Stone Ages of MySpace.
That's fascinating, actually. Because I want to hear more about that, because I never kind of got into the whole MySpace era. I kind of came on board a little later. But so yeah, I'd like to start with how you found yourself there, and the fact that you said you wrote the first Twitter book. So was no one talking about Twitter? What time were you one of the first new people to Twitter, like all of 10 people? How did that come out?
I think it was either 100 or 1,000. And what's interesting about when I discovered Twitter, or at least realized that it was going to be the next best thing and wanted to write a book about it, is I was on a virtual event. I was living in Hawaii at the time, and the event was happening in San Diego, and I saw it advertised. Lo and behold, on Twitter, someone clicked, or I clicked on a link because they posted their virtual event. And the title was, "Will Twitter Ever Go Mainstream?" That was the title.
Wow.
And I was like passionately on my keyboard. I'm like, yes, it will go mainstream. Like athletes and celebrities and politicians will use it. This is their only way to communicate with the masses. Because before, if you think about it, athletes and celebrities, who got to do news about them? They didn't, right? It was media. So they would get bashed, or like, you know, the I call them the rags when you're in the supermarket, and it's like the rags trashing celebrities, and they never had a voice to talk back unless they had a publicist or someone to talk and defend themselves. So I'm like, this is going to be used by athletes and celebrities. What I used to say is all it is your cell phone, and at the time I think I had an iPhone 4, but all it is texting, but texting to the masses. So instead of sending one text to one person, it's sending one to many, one to 100, one to 1,000. And I couldn't say 1 million at the time because there weren't 1 million at the time. Even same thing with YouTube. There weren't even 500,000 people on Twitter when I was really involved with YouTube as well. So yeah, I was at a virtual. I was participating from Hawaii. Everyone else was in a room and they were broadcasting it. They were live streaming it. I don't know if it was called live streaming at the time. And yeah, I just jumped on that and talked about how it would be widely accepted by the mainstream. And now it sounds like a joke that the question was ever asked. But yeah.
Well, you know what's interesting is there are 330 million monthly active users and 145 million daily active users. And one of the things about you that I appreciate is there's a lot of people who just wake up, and people like us who worked in television, there had to be some training. I went to college for it, and there's all of the ugly moments to go with it. But now anyone and everybody can get on and say, you know, I'm an expert at this. I can shoot video. I can do whatever. But that's not your case. You actually have a background, right? In social media marketing. Didn't you already have one?
So I started when, again, interesting that these times are very paralleled to the beginning of my story. And by the way, is the audio okay? Is it coming in?
Yep.
Perfect. So I started my company, which was a marketing consulting agency, in 2001, 21 days after 9/11. I flew from New York City to Hawaii, and it was the first nonstop. It was actually from Newark. It was the first nonstop from Newark to Hawaii because they had bigger planes to have more gas. So you didn't have to make a stop. So it was a 10-hour flight. And I was literally moving on the plane with my 2 dogs. I had a Rottweiler and a boxer, and they were underneath our plane in cargo. So it was a long flight for them, and we pretty much packed everything up. We sold our place, everything, furniture. And I say everything, but there was still a big truckload that got delivered, but got a lot of dishes and china and stuff, right? Clothes. I don't think I got rid of clothes, but like furniture, right? All the big stuff and bulky stuff, and went to Hawaii to start a consulting business. And at the time I was teleconferencing. I don't think there was Skype that even existed at the time. So I don't know what we called it. I think it was called teleconferencing.
I think that's right. I remember
so
there. Yeah.
That's essentially how I started my new business. And it's interesting because if you look back and you go, would you ever think to start a company or a business right after one of the biggest crisis moments of our time? I mean, even Wall Street was closed for a week, right? We haven't closed Wall Street for a day during this crisis. Wall Street was closed. All planes were grounded, all of them, for an entire week, right? So I think the day we flew, it was one of the first flights out. It had just been for a week and they started flying, but it was, I think, the first one that went to Hawaii nonstop. And people asked, well, weren't you scared? And my answer was no. And it still is. I still remember this very calm, peaceful moment because it felt like this is the path. This is the path I'm supposed to be on. So it's interesting when you just pursue what your calling is. And I'm using air quotes because I didn't call it a calling. I just knew this was the path that I was supposed to be on. So that's really how I discovered social media, because I got to Hawaii and we did some business locally. We did other teleconferencing from the clients we had in the New York, New Jersey area and Pennsylvania. But then I needed to expand and I wanted to help more people. And that's when I discovered blogging. And I discovered then Twitter was created, MySpace. And I just discovered that as my way to meet people. So I've been meeting my clients and even my VA, my virtual assistant, I met her online. I don't even think I had a video of her, that we didn't even meet on a video when I hired her. So I've been doing business virtually since 2001. 21 days after 9/11. So I kind of stumbled upon it and became addicted because it was my main source of getting clients online.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I put up this website because I think it's funny, because I know Social Media Examiner's a huge social media brand now. They run social media marketing well. But you were interviewed about Twitter in 2009. And it's funny because in the actual interview, which I'm not going to play for legal reasons, but it's basically Michael Stelzner, who's like huge now. He's saying like, oh, you've got 10,000 followers on Twitter, and he's in awe of you. And now it's like 10,000 followers. It's not nothing, but it's not. But
it is. Yeah, that's when it was a big deal to have 10,000, 30,000 followers on Twitter. And now I look and I'm like, well, that's not that big a deal anymore. But at the time it was. And I love Michael Stelzner. I still remember I was living not too far from him. When I first moved to Hawaii, I moved to the North County. Yeah. So that those of you who are familiar with San Diego, I was in the mountains of Del Dios, so Lake Hodges. And it was because I was coming from Hawaii and I still wanted water. And it was super expensive to live on the water in San Diego. And then everyone told me about this May gray or June gloom. And they're like, oh, you don't want to live on the water. It's depressing. First of all, I'm from New Jersey, and I don't know if similar in England, Tim, as well. You don't know what depressing is until you've had a New Jersey day. Like living on the water now over here, it's not depressing. But I listened to what people told me. I was living in Lake Hodges, and he called me and he said, Michael Stelzner, he's like, hey, let's have you talk about Twitter. I have Mari come in and talk about Facebook. And we were going into his the first studio office that he had, interviewing people about social media. So it was really cool to see the birth of what's now known as Social Media Examiner, social media marketing world. I met Michael at one of the first blogging conferences. So he was one of the OGs. It's so exciting to see when people flourish. And again, follow your dream. Like that was his calling. That was his passion. And look at it now, because he pursued just this little, like, hey, I want to start talking about social media. And it blew up, right, with Social Media Examiner. So
that's amazing. Coach Deb, I have a question for you. Yeah. We love conferences around here. And I know Tim especially loves to go to some of the social media conferences. Will you list for us maybe your top 3 conferences that would be great for those of us just stepping into social media? What would be your favorite conferences? Where should us newbies be going?
So again, I do a lot of virtual conferences. So I'm going to say right now, the world is your oyster. You can go to any of them that you want because everyone's online. And what's great too, and it's exciting to see, is that this month, more people have been doing live conferences and live events via live streaming like we're doing right now, and giving away the content that they would normally sell, and they're just giving it away to help other small business owners. And I love this. This is maybe one of my favorite months, but also my busiest months, because I'm also attending as many as I can get to, and at the same time delivering content for my clients and getting the work done. But it's an exciting month, and I think it's going to be a trend, kind of like Twitter, like it's going to be a trend. So these days, whether it's in person or virtual, just find the one that you are most interested in. The ones that I went to last year was Vid Summit, and again, social media marketing world, I popped in and out of because of, again, I'm a germaphobe, so I was kind of staying away. And I had a slight cough. I had still had a cough from back in October, so I didn't want to get anyone else sick, so I didn't really pop in there. But I love that event. And a lot of them are the OGs from when Blog World was around way back. 2006, 2007. So I feel like social media marketing world is like the next level, right? It's all those people and then twice as many at social media marketing world. And then, I loved Vid Summit. So many awesome people. My focus is video. So I really liked Vid Summit. A lot of experts sharing really, really good information. Interestingly enough, that was one of the conferences that I first started going to virtually. So, yeah. So I think this is going to be the new virtual handshake.
Yeah.
I
love it myself. Yeah. I love this myself. I think it's great, as I was saying to you guys earlier, to be able to connect with people and to do it from your homes. And there's a lot of busy people raising kids and running businesses out of their home, and yet they want to be with the community. And this is a good way to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, my advice on virtual events is that if you're new, virtual events are better than in-person events because you get so much more out from an educational point of view. But now I've been to so many events, virtual events are less rewarding in a way. I mean, the great thing about most virtual events is you can keep rewatching the sessions over and over. I mean, you can with like in-person ones, depending on how they do it. But I've looked at virtual ones, they're cheaper and you're more educational.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Tim. The other thing that I liked about and still like about attending virtual events than physical is you get to do your research on them, as opposed to, this would be really rude if I met you in person. I was like, what's the last, how do you spell your name, Crystal? What is that? And then I'm like, exactly. 30,000 followers on Twitter. She must be important, right? So, like you get to do your research and find out like, is this person that I have a similar interest in? And it's interesting because I just started a new YouTube channel recently, and I've been meeting some of my subscribers by going to other people's YouTube lives, other people's virtual events, and I see the comments that they're making. So like this one woman, Susie and Cynthia, they're twins, and I met them on a Gary Vee live right in the beginning of all this. I'm like, okay, I need a break. I need a mental break. I'm going to go to someone else's live. And I saw some of the comments that they were writing, and I would like them. I would reply back to them. And then we became friends because we saw a similar viewpoint. Now, a lot of people, there's a different viewpoint, but we have these intellectual conversations. So anyone like that either can debate about things in an intellectual manner, or they see the world, or they see business. So like Susie and Cynthia, we were just seeing eye to eye on the whole work ethic and working hard, right? Like Gary Vee talks about, and yet some people criticize them because work hard, bleed through your eyes, but that's a New York mentality, right? And that's where I came from. So I was able to connect with people that, I can't wait to meet with them in real life. But if I never do, they're a real friend. They're a real connection because we've got that mental connection. So I think this is going to be a trend, these real connections virtually that we're meeting via Zoom. The one thing that I would like to see is the new technology for them to create a camera, like some type of tube that goes down so that when you're Zooming with people, you can look at people eye to eye, as opposed to like here's the camera and then there's the person, and you lose eye contact. Whereas our phones, we can kind of do that and still get eye contact, right? And FaceTime. Whereas Zoom and the computer cameras, it's a little bit harder to do that because your computer's down here, and anywhere your webcam is going to be, it's going to be outside the frame, right? So whoever is in tech that can create that, that would be great.
Whoever's watching, please do it and do it right away.
Yeah. We need it now.
I love that idea, because how often in conversation when we're in a Zoom meeting or in a room like this, are we asking, where are you looking? Are you looking at me? What are you looking at?
Yeah. And I think I hit mute, but then I coughed and then I hit mute. So
okay.
I gotta figure out this mute.
That took skill to do that, though, Deb.
Yeah.
Pause, come back.
Yeah.
I have a question which intrigues me about you, because let's just say you were one of the OG social media people for Twitter and those kind of things, like 2009, 2010. But then clearly you stepped away from it, because if you were just doing Twitter since 2009, you'd be like 10 million followers or whatever. So clearly, I mean, I know you did like television presenting for a while, and you very much pivoted towards video marketing. How did all of that transform? How did you change from being the Twitter person to being the video person and getting into YouTube and then getting into, I think it was cable TV presenting you did at one point? How did all of that work? And like, how did that transition happen?
So yeah, and I took a step back from growing my own channel when I started getting hired by people at a very nice figure to grow their channels. And I think they didn't want me to be focusing on mine, because then it took away from them, especially if it was a high profile coach. But for instance, Tony Robbins was one of the first companies that came and sought me out to help them hit his first 1 million followers. Now, these days, that's not a big deal, but it was at that time. He was one of the first gurus that hit 1 million followers. And then folks like Ashton Kutcher and Larry King had a competition. And that was the first time we saw celebrities and mainstream media joining. And that's, to me, was the pivotal moment when it all blew up. And it blew up in a good way, right? Like other people started hearing about it. And I feel like I like to look at what the new trends are and do the research and jump on them. Like right now, I'm doing a lot with or research with Twitch, with Byte, because Twitch used to be a gaming platform. It's pivoting. So that to me is interesting. So that's always when you're going to see me, when these new, when they, and they're not that they're new, but they're coming on the scene in such a way that has certain signals that go, we've got to pay attention to that. Let's get our clients on that. And then once everyone's on it, I'm kind of like not interested, right? It's like, okay, everyone's on it now. What's the next best thing? So that's just who I am. Right. It's just who I am. I want to do the research and get in at the very, very early stages. And that's why I'm Coach Deb everywhere, because I typically will see that trend. And someone asked me how I predict it. And I think it's just because I consume a lot of information and I follow really bright people in tech, right? So it's not like it's me following the right people. So if your Twitter handle is bad, if your Facebook feed is bad, it's because you're following bad people. Follow different people and your feed is phenomenal. Right, like I loved my Twitter feed because I was following people like Guy Kawasaki, Brian Solis, and I'm pointing because they're all on my shelf right here. Right, their books are on my shelf, so it's like they're with me. It's why I love my books. But I was following just bright thought leaders, so my Twitter feed was very different than anybody who says, "Oh, I don't like it." Like TikTok, same thing. The second I went on there, I'm looking at. I literally put searches in there. So what happens, what people don't realize is these technology companies, these apps, especially now, are so built in with computerized AI learning, artificial intelligence, that it learns what you want and gives you more of it. So if you're typing in whatever that is, guess what you're going to get more of, right? Or if you click on something that's dumb, you're going to get more dumb stuff, right? I get a lot of what is it? Where they jump off buildings? What's the name of that?
Base jumping.
There's space, free. I know there's freeboarding, and there's also where they jump off and they like climb buildings.
I can't remember what it's called. It's got some
and so I wind up. I'm fascinated by it because I think they're absolutely crazy. But guess what? I get more of in my feed. More of that. Right?
That's especially true of TikTok. TikTok. Everybody's like, "Oh, TikTok's just full of people doing dancing." It's like, no. As soon as you search for anything, it shows you more of that. like
Yes.
just that.
Yes. Yeah. And now, again, it always starts with the young. And I know there's a lot of controversy around TikTok, it being like spyware and this and that, but so is Facebook. So are all of these things. Unfortunately, that's what they share in common. They're tracking you. Yes. If you don't want to be tracked and if you want your privacy, where's the garbage can? Just throw it away because it's tracking you. But yeah, I pursued the TV career because when I was in Hawaii, I learned from someone who was going to the school that they had all of this film, and at the time it was film, and they needed content. So they had these cable stations that wanted content, but they didn't have content creators. That's what they're called now, right? That's not what it was called. No one was creating content for these channels. So they had all these airwaves, and I'm like, I could do a television show. And for me, it was about business owners because that's what I help. I help the small guy, right? The small business owner. So I focused my information and teaching and content around that. And then that was my goal, to get on national TV, get a cable station. And then again, if April's been in the biz, you know, it's not as pretty as you think it is. And there's a lot of complications you got to go through, especially the fact that you don't control the content that you get to share from the guests, people, and the things you can say. And people, again, the executive producer was telling me I should say this or that when, and if you remember, the Vegas shooting happened 2 years ago, that was day one. It happened. I think I saw it in my feed by Perry Belcher, something about Vegas shooting at midnight. I'm like, are you kidding me? I was going to start the show the next morning with a whole new light approach, because I was taking over from the host. So everyone does like a season. So I was starting my season for the first time, and I'm like, how can I start on a happy note, right? Then I was told to say like who is behind it. I'm like, nobody knows that. I don't want to say that. So that's when I'm like, you know what? Forget this. I'm going back to YouTube, where I own the show. I own the content. I could put my guests on, the people that I want to share that. And the people that are my guests are people that I really love what they're doing, whether it's Pat Flynn, Switch Pod, and all the things that he's doing, right? Or Jason Cisneros, who's going in there, right, on these missions. It's just phenomenal. But those are the people that I like to highlight because they're doing great stuff. So yes, I went from social media to television, and then from television back to social media because something tells me this is where it's at. This is where it's going to go.
It's indie. That's what it is. It's indie. It's indie.
Yes.
You know, that's how I see it. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards as well, you know, to be able to just kind of do what matters to you. And we can do that. What matters to me, we're living in a society of indie contractors. Everybody does whatever it is they feel like, you know, indie professionals.
I mean, I'm probably even more extreme for you than April in that I think that the indie people are going to replace the traditional media.
I agree.
No, I think that's true. I'm with you on that.
Because it's like, well, why do we don't need this generalized content anymore? When if somebody wants to know about social media, they can look up a social media channel. They don't need some person who's going to bring on like 15 sort of jugglers and then something to appeal to somebody else just because it was the 3 channel or 4 channel or however many low number of channels there was in the traditional media. So
let me back up and say, I don't think it will ever replace it. I don't want anybody who's watching me that knows me in my business. I don't think it'll ever replace it, but it will definitely open up the door for so much more opinion, so much more content, things that matter, like Deb was just saying, to each of us on an individual level. What matters to all 4 of us right now is there might be some similarities, but there's going to be some stark contrast as well. What excites me, what excites you, what you enjoy. But I don't think it'll ever entirely replace it. It just opens the door so that we don't have to always, go through the head honchos in the entertainment industry. We don't have to subject ourselves to, some of the abuse that we've seen in the television industry. We can share our passions. And I love that, when I look back, I was creative at like 10 and 12, and I see my nieces and nephews today, and they can create their own brand at such a young age. They can design whatever they want and do more than color a book and watch a cartoon. And I like that. I think of what I would have been at that age, and maybe even today had I had that opportunity.
Yeah. Agree. I know more 8-year-olds that are making more money online than I was gonna say 80-year-olds, but 18 and 28 and 38-year-olds, right?
Yeah. I mean, I
Maybe 80.
learn a lot from those kids because they know what they're doing. They know they're being themselves, they're being authentic, but they also know how to tap into the market. So if you don't mind, I guess I'm curious. I'm so glad we're talking. What do you think the next trend is going to be in social media? What's the next place? We've got Twitter. Do you think that you mentioned something earlier? Oh my goodness, my brain. Do you think MySpace will come back?
Oh, MySpace. What I say is MySpace really hasn't left. It's pivoted. Like a lot of businesses have to pivot now, but so it's niche, right? It's niche for musicians. So when Justin Timberlake, and now I'm learning all the lingo of what you call people. I was like, who's JT? When he bought it, he essentially made it more for musicians. And it always really was. That's how a lot of indie musicians were found because of MySpace. And it was, to me, MySpace was revolutionary at that time and really set the tone for all of social media because it's where the indie creator, artist, musician was discovered. So there were musicians that wouldn't get a traditional label. They wouldn't get a recording label because they're like, no, who are you? They didn't know the right people. So instead they took their talent to MySpace, and MySpace created the technology for them to share their, that's not embarrassing, to share their content. They basically let the voters decide. Right? They let the listeners decide if they were good or not and upvote them, right? It's kind of the first likes. And because indie creators there were downloading content, that they became popular, and then they wound up getting picked up. And we're seeing the same thing on YouTube as well, right? People have made that transition from YouTube to, say, Netflix or traditional TV. And that's kind of what April's talking about. So that transition still is there. And what Tim was playing there, if you play the volume, it would be super embarrassing because I was talking about MySpace. It was one of my first YouTube channel. That's my backyard in Hawaii. Those are my dogs. So I love watching them because of kind of the backyard that we created. And there's right behind that wall. We actually had to create that wall because we had the flood of whatever it was, 2006 or 2007. And we had rain for 40 days and 40 nights. It was like biblical times. And one of the, I guess, ravines up there broke, and it just, all the water went gushing down from that mountain right to our house. And we had to just divert it. But yeah, those are my little babies back there. But yeah, this was like one of my first channels, and the quality was one of the best cameras that you could get, like camcorders. But you see fuzzy, it's square, right? You see all the up top, right? It wasn't the 1080p format that we have now. So that's why I no longer use that original Coach Deb channel. And I started the new one just about a month or two ago, because really a lot of embarrassing ones on there. And not because the quality is so bad, which it was, but also just because the editing was bad as well. And then the content is so outdated. So I realized I needed a new channel on that. But yeah.
Everyone has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has to start somewhere. It's great to go back and see how you've grown and what you turn into, what you did with all of that information.
And you know, April, and the reason why I leave it is because anyone that I'm coaching to just get on it, and from stage, I've been saying your first video is going to be your worst video. So just get it over with. And I leave it up there. So as this embarrassment, right, of the stuff that I did back then, like especially one of the intros, I'm like, oh my God, it's horrible. The pitch is really high in the beginning and then it goes low. Like hurts my ears. I wouldn't listen to it again, but I leave it up specifically so I can go, listen, this is how I started. And you might have a couple crappy videos in the beginning, but look, like if you don't start now, you'll never get better. And Gary Vee talks about that the same. And Tim's asking about TikTok. It's like, whether it's TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, right? When Snapchat was all the rage, if you don't go in there and play around with the technology and make the mistakes when no one is on it, then you're not going to learn in a safe setting, right? So learn it when it's early so you can make all your flaws and mistakes, because everyone does and everyone is forgiving. Perfect example of this is, look at right now what's happening in the world with traditional TV, with late night shows. I never really watched a late night show until recently, when Jimmy Fallon is is broadcasting and live streaming from his home, or he's really recording and then they're uploading it onto YouTube. But I find them so much better, so much more fascinating, because he's just having a Skype chat with one of his buddies who happens to be Adam Sandler or Jessica Gardner, and they're celebrities. So they're just having a Skype chat, and we get to listen in on just their kind of normal chat. And the best part about it is he'll get out of frame and he'll laugh because he's just having a good time with his buddy. And by the way, he's like doing what you shouldn't do. He's like looking down at it. He gets out of frame. The lighting is all shadowed. You have like this long shadow on him because he's talent. He's not a producer director. He's not like the stage guy. So their quality is, I'm not going to say a bad word, but can I say shite? Can I use an Irish instead of a, but it's just crap, right? It's crap quality, but the content is gold, right? The people are gold, and that's why we'll watch it. And I like that better than their polished broadcast. So we're seeing now celebrities get on and they've got echoes in their room and bad lighting and just bad setting. But we watch and we tune in because we connect with them. We like what they're saying. They make us laugh. They give us a break from the traditional news, right? That's why we go there to entertain us. So if you're watching this and you're going, I should create a channel, that's all you need to do is just be you. Don't even worry about making it perfect yet. Just get it out there. And your fans and the experts will tell you how to make it better in the comments. Trust me, they still do.
And I think it's going to be that way for a while. I think when you look at guys like Jimmy Fallon, like you were saying, I mean, those guys started out, doing sketch comedy, and we didn't have all that. And I don't know about you, but I've done some of that work here in LA. And that's what it's like. And when I see it, I think, I know down deep inside they are loving this, because this is getting back to our roots, where you're sitting in this. For anybody who's been to any of those, Groundling Studios or any of those places in Hollywood, when you're doing acting, it's always kind of dark and seedy looking and red old chairs, and the lighting is really bad, but you get into the moment. And I think these guys like him are loving it because it's taken him back to his roots. And I think we'll see more of that even when this all passes. I think they're going to come back and they're going to say, hey, they've gotten more viewers as a result. So maybe once a week, let's shoot a show from home or the car, or who knows where.
Yes, I totally 100% agree, April. Then this is why we're friends. See, now we're real friends in real life here.
For sure. And you're not far. So someday when it's all over, we'll all get together and have some coffee and tea and chat in person.
Absolutely. And I read the comments. So Gary Vee talks about this a lot in the early days. Is often he'll consume the content more than the content itself. And I do the exact same thing. It's probably why I have a kindred spirit with Gary Vee, and he's another Jersey guy as well. So I look at the content and the comments, the content in the comments. And that's one of the things that people are saying is, I love this so much better. There are even people who are saying, don't go back to the traditional format. Don't go back to the traditional set. We love this more. And this is what I was saying, since Twitter and MySpace days, it gives people a platform to share their comments and their feedback. They get to interact with talent. And when I did the TV show for a season and then quit promptly after that for many reasons, but that was one of the things that I noticed when I would upload the shows that I was allowed to on my Facebook page. And I had this one guy who was over in New England, and he was a postal worker, and he would watch the show every night. And it was on like 3 times a day. So he would watch like the 7 p.m. airing. And when he commented on one of the videos that I uploaded, I replied back, because that's what we do on social, right? And he's like, oh my gosh, you replied back. He was over the moon. And I think that's what I don't think people realize is when you create a YouTube station, whether you're a realtor and you create a station, whether you're a chiropractor, a doctor, an attorney, an author, a coach, whatever you are, when you create a YouTube channel, you're creating your own platform and your own stage, like Jimmy Fallon, and people connect with you. And they will actually, Tim, you actually watched my show on the big, huge screen, which now I'm really not at all, right? I'm like, they're only going to see me on this. Doesn't matter. I won't see my flaws, but you see it on the big screen. And that's the same way they saw it on the cable station. So you are larger than life to your viewers. You want to respond in kind.
Yes.
It shows every flaw in everybody. I mean, I look terrible on the TV screen. That's why I quite
please
like
watch me on your phone, Tim. Watch me on my phone. I look better on your phone.
People want to be able... We want to be able to relate with each other. We want to know that we all have something in common. And that's what's what is exactly cool about what you're saying, Coach Deb, is that you're explaining that we are all the same. We're all humanity. And now we get to kind of step into each other's living room and see that, wait a minute, we're all alike. We all have something in common. And now we get to have these conversations together. And that makes social media just, I think Tim Sohn said, this is the new in real life. And then he also made a comment about something you said, Deb. Love this point about the importance of comments. Comments are a type of content and sometimes more important than regular posts. And that is just so real.
Yeah.
So true.
It is.
We get to interact with each other no matter who we are.
And I gotta be honest, I'll say it right here. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I've been doing the IRL thing for years. I have a website, Imperfect Living. I've been talking about this stuff for years. But my pet peeve is people who want you to comment and want you to say things, but aren't willing to interact with you. And if I'm not going to lie, if somebody doesn't interact, doesn't support, doesn't say anything, I will leave. I will leave the channel. I will just disengage entirely, because I think that you do have to do that. I think what Tim just said, that's sometimes more important. It's true, because nobody just wants to see. I can say this from the news business, a talking head. I never made a really good just talking head, although I did good presentations. But who wants to just listen to someone just talk about themselves and everything they're doing and not want to interact or give back, you know?
Agree.
There is a place for that kind of content, but that is more, that's certainly, there's no point in having a live video and then not responding to anybody.
Yeah. And that's one of the interesting things too. I screen capture some of these things because I now have a folder. What does it say? Dumb advice others give me. It's going to be a chapter, but like same thing, like with Twitter, the dumb advice of people are like, that's not going to be mainstream, or that's not a thing, or it's not, it's only for young people. That's another one that I got a lot. So same thing with lives. I was just asking him, because he was in the internet biz, right? So you go, all right, internet biz, expert. And I'm like, what time do you think I should go, like, do my premiere or do the live? And they're like, well, the premiere doesn't matter. And then I went to Tim, and because we're new friends on Facebook, and I was like, what time do you think? And he was able to give me feedback because he's in England, wait, let me think of, it starts with an S, the specific place that you live. And now I can't remember. It's something. But over across the pond. And
I'm glad it's good that you can remember at least vaguely. It's part of London I lived, which is, I mean, that a lot of it is remembering about people.
Give me a hint. It starts with an S, right? It's like something. I'm gonna remember.
It's a direction. It's a direction, and then a place. No,
it's a direction. Oh, okay. This is good. This is making my brain
too. I'm like, a direction sounds like.
Well, you get sort of that way, or down.
South Woodford. Woodford? Yes. First trivia question I'll ever get right, April. I'm horrible with Twitter. Yay!
So am I. Just ask him, and he'll go on and on about my image. We had an image game, a picture game, and I
was in the comments.
Oh, you were there. You saw.
I was Googling for you. I had no idea.
Thank you.
No idea. One of them I thought was San Diego, because it was the trolley. I was like, oh, that could be San Diego. I don't know why he would show San Diego and not the beach, and then it was something else. So I got them all wrong.
Trolleys don't look like that in San Diego.
But Tim gave me feedback about when I should go live based on when he is going to bed or ending his evening. I'm like, well, if I want to reach a broader audience, I want to reach people in Hawaii that are 3 hours early. I want to reach people that are in Australia just starting their day. And then I want to reach people in England who are ending their day. So that's where I came up with that Tuesday at 2 or at 12, right? That was this window. Now, sometimes I have to do a little later because there are still essential workers that are still in their day job. So I have to do it after, right? After 5 or 6 p.m. But that was super helpful. And I have to say, I probably crowdsourced my intel since the early days of Twitter. And I'll, like, for instance, I'm coming up with a new header for the Coach Deb YouTube channel, and I will crowdsource it to my people. And I'm like, what do you think is better? What do you like better? Which pops out to you visually? And some people will say A, some people will say B, some people will say 3. Yes, I may mess up my letters and numbers all the time, which by the way, if you make mistakes and just let them out there and don't edit it and comment, your people will do it for you. And guess what that means? More comments. So I allow my wrong all the time. Always what I call
screw up there.
What's that?
Deliberately screw up a few times.
Everybody's a critic, so they got to tell you. And like you said, it leads to more comments.
It keeps it real. It keeps it real.
Do you live in Starbucks, Tim?
It's a long-running joke because actually Tim Thon is somebody I met last year's social media marketing world. He's based in Pennsylvania, and he's always posting him outside Dunkin' Donuts. So I keep calling him Dunkin' Donut Tim. But he runs a live show with my friend Jim Fuchs, who's based in Atlanta, who I visited in Atlanta, called the Tim and Jim Show. So if you get a chance, you can check out his show as well.
Yeah. So I'm a East Coast girl. So Dunkin' Donuts is that's what I'm very. That's what I learned when I went to Canada for the first time. Tim Hortons is basically like the Dunkin' Donuts of Canada.
Yeah.
That's what I discovered.
I went to Toronto once and they were like, oh, you got to try Tim Hortons. And it's like, well, it's just another coffee place, really.
Yeah, it's just Dunkin' Donuts. What do you mean? But everyone from the East Coast swears that Dunkin' Donuts has the best coffee, and it's like $2, maybe $1. It's super cheap. Yeah. So they're like, Starbucks, that's that fancy California place. Like, we'll go to Dunkin' Donuts. Well, we finally got a Dunkin' downtown San Diego. I think you guys know this.
Let's flip not bother about social media, but you've lived in the East Coast in New York, New Jersey, the West Coast, San Diego, and in Hawaii. Like, you must be one of the people who can understand. What are the differences between, if you have to describe the biggest differences between people in those places, and like how, like, to me, it seems like the East Coast is very busy and uptight and like productive. West Coast quite laid back and a bit more woo-woo. And Hawaii, I've never been to yet, so I don't know. I mean, maybe.
Yeah. I'd love to hear about Hawaii from your perspective.
Yeah. So I also lived in Texas for a bit, and then I tapped out in August because it was bloody hot. It was so hot I couldn't take it. So I lived in Austin for about a year. The only free state I've ever lived in. Everyone was pretty socialist. Other states, the highest tax rates, highest regulations. Right. I was in Texas, and I was going for. There was this self-protection class, which. Like these days, I'm like, okay, all that training there, but it was where you like learn to duck and roll and then target practice and shoot. And in Freehold, New Jersey, where I grew up, was a farm. So I shot my first shotgun when I was 8, and I learned my shoulder still hurts from the feeling of the pull back there.
Been there.
Yeah, I learned to shoot when I was 8 because we had this big farm, 12 acres up against 300 acres. We had a lion escape from Great Adventure once. So you kind of wanted to know that your kids could, protect themselves if they ever needed. So I would say that would be the Midwest of America. And Tim, you were asking like, what are the difference between the states? I would say, so Hawaii and New Jersey, the most dramatically opposite. Like I literally moved from one side of America to the complete other. Like you couldn't go any further. And I would say New York's definitely hot, strong work ethic, work till you bleed through your eyes. Hawaii is like ukulele. It's pauhana time, which means stop work at 4 p.m. on Thursday. California is if Hawaii and New Jersey had a baby, it would be California.
Wow.
And I think Australia is similar because Australia has this laid back style, but super productive in their work ethic as well. And they're also very sarcastic, which is a East Coast quality. So I get along with Australians very well. So yeah, it's the sarcastic connection. Which apparently the English have a very sarcastic nature. I didn't know that.
I mean, well, European in general is much more sarcastic than East Coast get it more than the rest of America.
I learned that when I was visiting California. It was my first trip out of college. I was like, I'm going. I literally just went there, visited a friend that I had met overseas during a like study abroad program. And I promptly lost her friendship within the week because apparently I was really sarcastic and I didn't know it. And I was like, I don't get it. Why is she like, what's happening? He goes, oh, she takes everything you say very seriously and is offended. I'm like, but I'm not saying anything offensive. Like, I'm being funny. And the more you like someone on the East Coast, the more sarcastic you are with them. So yeah, I've never spoken to her again. So that's when I learned sarcasm wasn't welcome in California.
I guess so, you know, because I'm from California, born and raised. And when I came to LA, I got two things. One was, are you from the Midwest? Because I could talk to anybody at any time. And the other was, you must be from New York.
Oh, are you sarcastic?
And they always said it. Yeah. And they always said it like, you must be from New York. Where are you from? New York? And I started thinking, boy, the way they said it was in a negative tone.
Yeah.
But the people I knew from New York and met were very strong, empowered women. And yeah, I am sarcastic. It works for me.
Yeah.
So I can relate to you on that. I didn't know that it was, and I think I lost a few people in the process as well because they couldn't take the sarcasm. We knew it as humor, but they didn't see it that way.
It's a sign of intelligence, April. And yes, Tim Song, I don't know if that's how you say your last name, but I see you pop up everywhere, so you can tell me and correct me. But yes, Team East Coast, and April, yes, that's why we would get along very well.
Yes, very much. Very much.
I mean, I think sarcasm is basically a result of history in Europe and the East Coast, in as much as if you genuinely have a boss or somebody above you in sort of like in a non sort of like politician, like a dictator or some sort of king or above you, then you can't say, oh, you did a really terrible job at that. You have to say like, oh, you did fantastically well there, in like a sarcastic way. And people on the West Coast generally haven't had that history of living under kind of an authoritarian or other thing, which historically in the East Coast is more likely, and in Europe it's almost, I mean, the most sarcastic people I've ever met are Greek people. They are like ridiculous, because Greece is basically just, most of its history has been under some sort of empire, so they can never say what they ever thought about anything. They'd always have to say the opposite and be sarcastic about it.
I know that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, my husband says I've been able to get away with things that most people can't using this sarcasm. And I didn't know that. That's how I got into television. I was doing a lot of group speaking and conferences, and someone said, man, you get away with things that no one would. You should go on television. And I was like, I've always wanted to do it. So bam, I went and get it. And I got the interviews that nobody else could get with the sarcasm. But I don't think everyone can do it. I think you kind of have it, or you know what I mean? You're either born with it. You don't want to like develop it because it could go south real quick.
That's fine art.
Coach Deb, I have a question for you then about San Diego. How are you liking San Diego now that you're here? And this is a two-part question. Your favorite restaurant in San Diego, since we're kind of on a food roll with the coffee.
I want to know that.
So many. The first one pops out is Anateca, which is an Italian place right down the street. There's Cloak and Petal, which is in Little Italy, but I have a bias because he's a friend and a client. So Cloak and Petal, Little Italy.
It's okay. I love that area. So I'm writing that down right now.
Yeah.
So when we get back to normal.
Yes. And when I thought about Cloak and Petal, I was like, ooh, that's going to be hard to pivot because it was fine, posh sushi in this really cool, modern, chic kind of place. Like it was just really super cool. It would be like the Soho of New York. And I'm like, how are you going to pivot? How do you deliver sushi? Like the way you do it in person. And he pivoted to do like bento boxes to go. So he would like prepare your lunches and dinners in bento boxes and then deliver them to your door. So you would have your food for the week. He also started delivering to the hospitals. So all the nurses and the staff that want, and need food. So he would deliver in huge bulks for them. And they're eating better than they ever have for, their lunch breaks. So he made such clever ways to pivot. So started selling the toilet paper, right? They had that in bulk. So I love what he's done. The owner is manager, whatever, is Caesar, and he's just done a brilliant job. So I love that place. Anateca is an Italian place. I'm hoping they don't get out of business. They've been here for so long.
I know exactly where they are, and it's one of my favorite as well. It's a little hidden gem, hidden family-owned gem. Yes, very.
And it's So Italian places like in New York, it's just like you're right on top of one another. Like you might as well be dining with the person next to you. So that's where I'm worried because it's like you said, it's a hidden gem. It's a little spot, little local spot, and it's phenomenal food. It's on the level of New York Italian food. So I'm really hoping they stay in business. Makes me sad thinking about them. But yeah, and then there's a place that I just did a video on. Don't even remember their name. I just know that they're super healthy, and they started pivoting by selling local produce and all of the farmers market stuff. So they're selling like you might as well go to the grocery store and just go there. So that's a super place too. And I love San Diego. It's my favorite place in the world. I love it. And I've been to a lot of places.
I'm here for you.
Duncan, Team East Coast. I love it, Tim. Thank you.
I was going to ask, Deb, it's been so great talking to you, but I don't want to let you go without asking, for those who are watching, for the viewers, what can you do to help them with their business, or how do you help your clients?
Oh, what do I do for clients?
Yeah.
The biggest thing is helping them grow their business. And right now I'm really focusing online. I've always done that. But before the emphasis was, it took the social media turn, right? But before that, before social media really existed as a mainstream, it was just helping them grow their business. So looking at ways to grow and not just do things in a traditional way. But the biggest thing right now is getting them a YouTube channel, getting them video production better, giving them some coaching on how to get started quickly and using simple tools. Like you don't have to go out and buy super expensive equipment. There's simple tools. So the new YouTube channel I started, sharethischannel.com, will bring you directly there. I'm starting to share as many free tips for that beginner to get started. And then for the person that is a seasoned business owner or a realtor and wants to pivot and start meeting their clients online, because that's our future, teaching them how to do that. So yeah, it's, and I'm trying to give as much free information as possible and as many free tools. So one of the interviews, I interviewed one of my old OG buddies from back in the day. He has a simple tool for people to create their own website, and it's completely free, and it's not going to be going away anytime soon. It's free for life. So I'm trying to share those types of tools with people. So there's literally no excuse, right? If you have an iPhone, you can do video. If you have a computer, you can log on and get a free website, and you can start selling stuff online as soon as like tomorrow, and only tomorrow, because you know you're going to to us here.
Right. Only after. Okay. I love it. I can't wait to check out your channel, because I've been kind of following you. I think I virtually met you because you were a guest in Indie Author Chat, right, Tim? Right. And then there was something about probably some of that sarcasm. You were very, you were so active. You know, you were not, let me just say, it's a compliment to you, because you come off in social media exactly how you are right now and talking to you. And I am so happy to not be disappointed by that, because I have met a lot of, you know, stiff shirts kind of people and uptight and rude and all of this, and been disappointed, but you are not. You are not. I knew the minute you were interacting, it was like, this is a person I want to know. And so I'm so happy that you're here today. And I can't wait to check out your channel and apply some of your tips myself. I think we could all say, at least me and Christelle, you know, we're kind of new. I might know television, and producing, but when you're doing that in YouTube and you know, live, there's some practice there. So thank you. I can't wait to check it out.
Pleasure, and that means a lot. Thank you. And yeah, I'm no stiff shirt. I'm wearing tie-dye after all. This might be my new thing.
Hey, that works.
I've adopted the California culture. Was that
based off the fact that me and Christelle and April had a virtual dinner party that lasted 4 hours, and I said somewhere in the middle of it, let's start a live show. So,
let's see what happens.
Oh no, not another live show. I love the name.
And get to talk about real life things and interview amazing people. And it's so great to connect with someone from my hometown, or who's living here now, I should say. Yeah. Great to connect with someone from San Diego. So thank you for being here, Deb.
I mean, the funny thing is that, like, you could have been in Hawaii still. The current thing, it's like, it doesn't matter where you could be. Right, you could be next door to each other, literally. Totally. And actually, in the current environment, it's the whole world has been leveled out.
Because, we're all neighbors. We're all neighbors right now.
Yes.
But she lives in an apartment above me. She lives in the one
She's
Next to
actually
me.
living in your garage.
She's in the garage.
Exactly.
How do you say garage, Tim?
Garage.
Garage.
Yeah, garage.
Garage.
And how do you say Glasgow?
Me?
Is it Glasgow or Glasgow? Coach Deb.
Oh, I would be a horrible person to ask. I don't even know.
And Tim and Christelle had a conversation, and then they brought me in. How do I say it? So how would you say it?
It doesn't make any sense because I keep saying to people so that I don't prejudge it. I say, like, Edinburgh is the biggest, like the capital of Scotland. What's the second name of the second city in Scotland? Which is Glasgow, as I pronounce it. But I think Christelle pronounced Glasgow.
I like the way Tim says it better. I like the accent, or what I hear is an accent. I think your way is good. I like it.
Yeah, well, I don't phonetically pronounce it. Most words I pronounce phonetically, but I say Glasgow with like an R in it. There isn't an R actually in it. It's Glasgow.
That's why we like it.
I'm still not convinced I'm actually saying it the right way because I'm not Scottish, so it's like.
So someone else will say it differently. It's like Dublin. When I went there, it's like, oh, it's Dublin. Okay.
I'm not sure there's much point asking Americans because it's kind of like.
No.
Well, he asked me the second, and I was like, I have no idea. Oh,
yeah.
And then I linked Glasgow to somebody I know that goes by Glasgow Girl or Glasgow Girl.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, Deb, I should say this way. Let me back up. Sorry. Are you? Is there anything new that you're trying in your personal life now that we're all at home? Have you taken up painting or anything fun, baking? I don't know, anything, gardening, anything that you've been wanting to do, and now you've got time to try.
I would say I'm cooking more, but I don't know that I want to be cooking more. I'm a shite cook, and I started, and I would I've knifed myself more. I've stabbed myself because I don't know how to cut and I was like, this is why I shouldn't be in the kitchen.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'm doing anything new other than just being glued to getting more content produced. Yeah, this is just the time to share a lot of knowledge. So I don't think I'm doing anything new per se. Okay. In fact, I should be on the Peloton more, and I'm not, which is terrible because I can't get to the gym. But I think in the beginning, it was just, you're just all glued to the computer, just between getting information, finding out what's going on, and then figuring it out to disseminate it. It's been just nonstop. I think the only thing that's changed for me is now I don't get to go out on a Friday night to kind of debrief. So then I'm just working more because that's my New York. That's my New York go-to. I'm just going to keep working, right? So I've been working a bit too much, so I need to take somewhat of a break. But I think Tim and I talked about this where I'm like, I just need to take a Tuesday off and just have a no tech Tuesday.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I just so burned out because I just didn't realize I was not taking even a moment off to even. I think the only Netflix series I saw during this was 4-part series, Self-Made. I think it was called Self-Made. Phenomenal. It was about the first American woman first American woman who became a millionaire in like the 1920s, 1930s. Maybe she hit it in like the 50s, 60s, but she had started the business, and she started it during the Depression, during hard times. So to me, I love that story of hope in hardship.
Yeah, that sounds good. I watch a lot of things, but I haven't gotten to that yet. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I can't wait to check that out too.
Octavia from The Help or from Hidden Figures, she is the star of the show. And she's phenomenal. Yes.
Who doesn't love both of those? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Phenomenal. So that's I got to do some break. Yes, Tim.
Anyway. Yeah. Rather than us turning into a Netflix review channel, I think I'm going to, unless anybody's got any objections, I'm going to make us actually finish a show under an hour for a change.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And it's been fantastic to have you on the show. And where do you want to send people? If they can go to one place to find out about you, where should they go?
I'm going to say sharethischannel.com because I want more YouTube subscribers. Yeah, the coachdeb.tv is my main site, but it's under total review because I haven't updated in about 7 years. So better to go to my new YouTube channel, and you can get there redirected by going to sharethischannel.com. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. And
Any
thank you again.
last words from anybody before I hit the end broadcast button?
And thank you, Coach Deb. Looking forward to chatting with you again and interacting more with you.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you. Good meeting y'all.
Nice meeting
you.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, April. Bye, Tim.
Bye,
Bye, viewers. Bye, Tim Song.